Okay, we're working with example number 5 in chapter 4. Okay, we have 6 students provided the following data about the distance in miles from their home to their college and the time in minutes to commute from their home to their college. Okay, so part A is asking you to do a scatter plot, which I've already done. Just remember that for all these problems, we always want to be able to identify the independent variable and your dependent variable, and in this case we're telling you that distance is your independent and that time is your dependent. Don't forget to include a scale. In this case we have this in 5s, right? And then the same thing with the y's. Okay, so that's for part A. For part B, we're asking you to find your correlation coefficient. You're going to do this by using your calculator and the command linear regression. You get a long value, but you're always going to round your R value to 3 decimal places. Okay, so that part's done. Now, we also ask you to see if there's a correlation between the variables. And we're going to determine this by looking at our critical value. Okay, and remember, the critical value is found by looking at your table. In this case, if we do that, we get a critical value of 0.811. Okay, and so once we have our critical value, we can go ahead and it helps to make a sort of a picture of what's happening and include your critical value, both the positive and the negative. So you can go ahead and make your regions here and then see exactly where your R value lands. Okay, so here's my R value because it's greater than 0.811, and we basically have the no relationship region, right? And then outside is where we have our relationship. So we want a couple of sentences here to state exactly what we just found out. Okay, so in this case we can say that, right, there is a linear relationship, linear positive relationship between the variables, right, since R is positive. Remember, that's the same thing as saying greater than 0, and falls outside the no relationship region. Okay, so that's our explanation of R and what it's telling us. So now let's go to part C. Part C is asking us to find the equation of the line of best fit for the distance and the time commute. Okay, so remember that the equation of the best fit line is just basically your regression line. Okay, that's all I'm asking you to find. So again, using the same command, you can find your regression line, and you get that y is equal to your a value, your slope, 1.319 plus 4.78. Okay, and again, there's no calculation here. You're finding this using your calculator. Okay, part C done. So now let's go to part D. Now part D is asking you to sketch that line you found in part C into your scattergram. Okay, so remember, to graph lines, we basically need points. That's the easiest. So right away we know that this is a point, okay? And by letting x be 10, and notice that I picked 10 at random, we get 17.97 for the y value. Okay, and so it doesn't have to be 10. I could have let x be anything I wanted. And so this is just basically giving me an idea of where my line's going to go. It's going to start from here, on the x-axis, on the y-axis, and it's going to go to 17, so somewhere here, where x is equal to 10. Okay, so we have our line. Let's go ahead and do this. Try to make it as nice as possible. And there we have our line. Okay. Part E. Estimate the time it would take a student to commute to school if he or she lived 45 miles from their college. Okay, so again, we're estimating. Oops, let's do this again. Come on. Okay, and to estimate, we're basically we're using a regression line again. Okay, so it becomes 1.319x plus 4.78. Okay, and the information that we're given, if you look at this, right, is 45 miles from their college, and in this case, that number represents distance. And if we go back to step number 1, right, what variable was that? Right, that was our x variable. So they're giving us an x value right there. That's an x value. And they're asking you to find the time, okay, which is your y. So you want to know when x is equal to 45, what is your y value? Okay, so you're going to let x be 45 because that's what they're telling you. And then doing that, you're going to be able to find the y value. So in this case, we get that 1.319 times 45 is 59.355 plus 4.78. Okay. And we get 64.135. Okay. It always makes sense to write a sentence. Okay, so what did we just find? We found that okay, if a student lives 45 miles from their college, okay, we expect the student to take about 64 minutes, right, to arrive at school. So make sure you always include the sentence. Again, even if I don't ask you for a sentence, it always helps to make sure that it makes sense of what we're saying. Okay, and then the last part is, if a student took 10 minutes to commute to their college, estimate how far he or she lived from their college. So now, we want to look at this carefully. You want to look at exactly what is the information that we have and what is the information that we're looking for. So the information we have is 10 minutes, right? And really think about this. Are they giving you an x or a y value here? Okay, so they're giving you time. And again, if you look back, time is your y variable, okay? And they are asking you to figure out how far. So you're looking for distance, right? This is the value you don't know. Distance is the unknown in this case. And remember, distance is your So in this case, you're basically going backwards. You have the y, but you're looking for x. And you're going to use, again, the linear regression line. So y equals 1.319x plus 4.78. Okay? And now again, because they gave you y, you're going to let y equal 10. Right? Because that's the value they gave us. You need to solve for y. Okay, so solve for x. Solve for x. So isolate your x by moving that 4.78 to the other side. So minus 4.78, minus 4.78, and we get 5.22 is equal to 1.319x. Let's move this up. And we get, divide both sides by 1.319. We get that x is equal to 19. 319. 3.95. So what did we just find? We found that if it took 10 minutes for the student, right, the distance, remember this is distance, it's about 4 miles. Okay, so let's write the sentence. If a student takes 10 minutes to get to school, they live about 4 miles from school.